Shalum, Shalum and welcome. Welcome to the White Rose Family Channel. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I'm compelled to present before an awakening set-apart nation. To those that are drawn by the Almighty Creator Yahuah, who is the beginning and the end, who are drawn by him to his word, Yahusha, as it is written in John 6:44, to those who will discover that the Almighty Father also sent his set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name, referencing John 14:26. My brothers and sisters, we will understand the dynamics of that relationship we have with the Almighty Father, how it is through his word. This is why we should and are encouraged to pray in Yahusha's name, recognizing that our communication with Yahusha, who is our intermediary, who is the word of Yahuah, makes intercessories for us, as the scriptures tell us. Yashar'al, before I get into this, I want to say this, that the views expressed in these messages do not necessarily reflect the owners, managers, shareholders, and or sponsors of this media platform. With that said, let's get started. Adult decisions and innocent death. The topic here is adult decisions and innocent death. Make no mistake, Yashar'al, end times are here, and the scriptures describe things that lie ahead as it relates to end times, from earthquakes in diverse places, to wars and actually rumors of wars, to signs from the heavens, from battles within, famine, pestilence, and disease. It describes a lot of destruction that will ramp up during these end times. And I say to you, O Yashar'al, it would be wise to pursue where the Almighty Father wants you to be and what it is he wants you to do during these times. This message is to heighten our attention to beware or be forewarned. The need to be cautious of whom we follow is now. For some adults, and I could have said leaders, but those who are adults tend to influence the children, the younger, and others more widely, just as on many occasions, it's the leaders that's making decisions for his flock, sometimes for families and entire households. Come with me, my brothers and sisters. Let me begin by mentioning that we, as individuals and teachers and leaders, have responsibility. If you are an outspoken individual, if you are a moray, a teacher, a deacon, a bishop, a pastor, if you are one who teach, who leads another or others, we must be mindful that the decisions we make, if they are following us, trusting us to follow Yahusha, trusting us to do the will of the Almighty Father, and we misstep, we can cause literally innocent deaths. And I will present the case where there's an example of a decision that led to innocent deaths. Leadership decisions can affect the innocent. Let us visit these words, my brothers and sisters, and you be the judge as you believe the Almighty Father is opening your eyes and showing you. Come with me to the 16th chapter of Numbers, verses 1 through 10. 16th chapter of Numbers, verses 1 through 10. And Korah, son of Yisar, son of Kehath, son of Lui, took both Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliah, and On, son of Peleth, son of Reuben. And they rose up before Moshe with some of the children of Yashar'al, 250 leaders of the congregation called ones of the meeting men of name. And they assembled against Moshe and against Aharon and said to them, enough of you, for all the congregation is set apart, all of them, and Yahuwah is in their midst. Why then do you lift up yourselves above the assembly of Yahuwah? They're falsely accusing Moshe and Aharon. And when Moshe heard, he fell on his face. And he spoke to Korah and all his company, saying, tomorrow morning Yahuwah shall make known who is his and who is set apart, and bring him near to him. And let him bring near to him the one whom he chooses. Now notice this is Dathan, Korah, and Abiram. And they brought 250 leaders of the congregation with them to challenge Moshe and Aharon. And Moshe said basically, in the morning, the Almighty Father will make known. Goes on in the 6th verse. Do this, take fire holders, Korah, and all your company, and put fire in them, and put incense in them before Yahuwah tomorrow. And it shall be that the one whom Yahuwah chooses is the set apart one. Enough of you, sons of Lui. And Moshe said to Korah, hear now, you sons of Lui. Is it little to you that the Almighty One of Yashar'al has separated you from the congregation of Yashar'al to bring you near to himself, to perform the service of the dwelling place of Yahuwah, and to stand before the congregation and to serve them? And that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brothers, the sons of Lui, with you, yet you seek the priesthood as well. So he's describing their rebellion. Continuing on with the story, verse 11 through 20. Therefore you and all your company are set against Yahuwah and Aharon. What is he that you grumble against him? Notice he's saying you and your company are set against Yahuwah and Aharon. What is he that you grumble against him? In other words, why are you grumbling against him? And Moshe sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliah, but they said, we are not coming up. Is it little that you have brought us up out of the land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you would also seize total rule over us? They're questioning the leadership of Moshe. He said, also you have not brought us into a land of flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. Would you bore out the eyes of these men? We are not coming up. And Moshe became very displeased and said to Yahuwah, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I done harm to any of them. Then Moshe said to Korah, tomorrow you and all your company shall be there before Yahuwah, you and they in Aharon, and take each one of us his fire holder, and you shall put incense in it, and let each one bring his fire holder before Yahuwah. 250 fire holders, you and Aharon, each one with his fire holder. So each one took his fire holder and put fire in it, and laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tent of appointment with Moshe and Aharon. And Korah assembled all the congregation against him at the door of the tent of appointment. Then the esteem of Yahuwah appeared to all the congregation. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aharon, saying, continuing on, 21st verse. I'm in the 16th chapter of Numbers, finishing the story of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. He says, separate yourselves from the midst of the congregation, and let me consume them in a moment. But they fell on their faces and said, O El, or all, Almighty One of the spirits and all flesh, when one man sins, are you wroth with all the congregation? And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the congregation, saying, Move away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So Moshe rose up, and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Yashar'al followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, Please turn away from the tents of these wrong men. Do not touch whatever belongs to them, lest you be consumed in all their sins. Then they moved away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of their tents, with their wives and their sons and their little children. Now let me ask you, my brothers and sisters, do you believe the wives, or at the very least their sons and little children, were innocent? There's a reason why I asked that question. Let me continue. Moshe said, By this you shall know that Yahuwah has sent me to do all these works, that they are not from my own heart. He goes on to say in the 29th verse, If these die as all men do, or if they are visited as all men are visited, then Yahuwah has not sent me. But if Yahuwah creates what is unheard of, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the grave, or Sheol, then you shall know that these men have scorned Yahuwah. And it came to be, as he ended speaking all these words, the ground under them split apart, and earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, with their households and all the men with Korah and with all their goods. So they and all those with them went down alive into the grave, and the earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. Yashar'al, hear these words. Hear and discern, my brothers and sisters. It is important for us to realize why we must be careful who we stand with and allow to represent. Whether it be us or our family, you or your family. Know your family, Yashar'al. I'm going to pause if I'm presenting something that is akin to strengthening your position of belief and how severe and how sincere it is to walk after the ways of the Almighty Father and acknowledge his leaders. Consider subscribing, share, like, my brothers and sisters. White Rose family. My brothers and sisters, it said their household, their children, their little ones. So from the decision of adults, because the wives didn't fight against it, they followed their husband. But from the decision of the adults, innocent ones died. We witnessed innocent death. Come with me, Yashar'al. Come with me as I present these words regarding our family. Matthew 10th chapter, verses 34 through 39. For it reads, Do not think that I have come to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to bring division, a man against his father, a daughter against a mother, a daughter-in-law against a mother-in-law. And a man's enemies are those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. You see, if we love them more than the one who's giving life, there's a problem. Yashar'al. He goes on to say, and he who does not take up his stake and follow after me is not worthy of me. In other words, he who do not recognize the sacrifice, the resurrection, and what followed, the Almighty Father sending his set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name. It say, he who has found his life shall lose it, and he that has lost his life for my sake shall find it. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, there's much work to be done, much to realize. And I ask you, do we know our family? Do we know who are the innocent ones? Could it be those on milk versus those on meat? Would it be safe to say that adults are those that are on meat, or at the very least should be on meat? Take heed to these words, my brothers and sisters. For when it comes to family, when it comes to order, it's important to us to know who our family is. Matthew 24, 4 through 13 says, Yahusha answered and said to him, take heed that no one leads you astray. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they shall lead many astray. You see, there will be some innocent ones misled that are on milk. And you shall begin to hear of fightings, reports of fighting. See that you are not troubled, for these have to take place, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and reign against reign. And there shall be scarcities of food, and deadly diseases, and earthquakes in places. And all these are the beginning of birth pains. Then they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you, and you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many shall stumble, and they shall deliver up one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. And because of the increase in lawlessness, the love of many shall become old. But he who shall have endured to the end shall be saved. My brothers and sisters, is this describing some conditions that we would want to be away from? And if so, wouldn't it require tough decisions? When making tough decisions, let's remember they will affect others. All that I just read that's going to happen in these last days. Do you not think that there would be some guides, some chosen leaders to direct our footsteps away from the calamity, the chaos, the destruction that is coming? Do you not think that the Almighty Father will move some of our leaders to teach us how to be strong in spite of what will happen to these earthen vessels? And when it comes to strength, wouldn't you want to be around family members that are strong, family members who unequivocally know that they are your family, your brother or your sister? Wouldn't you want someone that puts the Almighty Father first? So when they share guidance or instructions during the calamity, chaos and destruction that's to come, that they're speaking as the Almighty Father is guiding them? Otherwise, oh Yashar'al, they will be as adults making decisions that lead to innocent death. The death of the innocent. You see, once the death has occurred, there's no hidden rewind, my brothers and sisters. It is important to be mindful of when to support versus times to break away. Consider these words, O Yashar'al. Come with me to Acts 5th chapter, verses 1 through 10. Acts chapter 5, verses 1 through 10. It reads, but a certain man named Hananiah, with Sapphira, his wife, sold a possession, and he kept back from the price. His wife also being aware of it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the feet of the emissaries. And Kepha said to Hananiah, Why have Satan filled your heart to lie to the set-apart spirit and keep back from the price of the land for yourself? While it remained, did it not remain your own? And after it was sold, was it not in your authority? In other words, he's saying you didn't have to lie. Just tell the truth. Why have you conceived this deed in your heart? You have not lied to men, but to the Almighty One. Then Hananiah, hearing the words, fell down and breathed his last, and great fear came upon all those who heard this. But the young men arose and wrapped him up and carried him out and buried him, trying to deceive individuals, but he was also ultimately trying to deceive the Almighty One. And it came to be, 7th verse, about 3 hours later that his wife came in, not knowing what had taken place. But she knew what her husband did in terms of selling and holding back. She didn't know what resulted in that. So she walks in there 3 hours later, and Kepha responded to her, say to me whether you sold the land for so much. And she said, yes, for so much. Thinking that she was getting away with deceit. So Kepha said to her, why have you agreed to try the spirit of Yahuah? Notice it say agreed. So she agreed with her husband. Look, the feet of those who have buried your husband are at the door, and they shall carry you out. And immediately she fell down at his feet and breathed her last. And the young men came in and found her dead, and carrying her out, they buried her beside her husband. You see, adult decisions. Husband made a decision that influenced the wife, caused her to lie, led to the death of one who may have otherwise been innocent. My brothers and sisters, it would be wise to know how to discern the times when we must choose what will affect us individually before jumping or remaining in allegiance to another. Sure, we can say it was that leader's fault, that shepherd's fault. But who made the ultimate decision? It was the one in the mirror. Sometimes there are decisions made, O Yashar'al, by the adult that affect others, by the shepherd that will affect many. I believe a great correction is coming, and in that correction we will see separation from egotistical pastors, bishops, deacons, mores that refuse to be corrected. Now those who face refinement and discipline and rise up renewed as a result of repenting, different story. But those who have a different agenda, there are warnings for you, for those who fit this bill. There are many warnings to those who mislead the children of the Almighty Yahuah. Consider Jeremiah 23:1 through 3. For it says, woe to the shepherds destroying and scattering the sheep of my pastor, declares Yahuah. Therefore thus said Yahuah, the Almighty One of Yashar'al, against the shepherds who feed my people. You have scattered my flock, driven them away, and have not tended to them. See, I am punishing you for the evil of your deeds, declares Yahuah. Therefore I shall gather the remnant of my flock out of all the lands where I have driven them, and shall bring them back to their fold, and they shall bear and increase. Woe to the shepherds, destroying and scattering his flock. Do you know that erroneous teachings fuel confusion and division? Are we aware that the egotistical, those who are pushing their own agenda for self-gain and for various selfish reasons, puts the innocent in jeopardy for following them. More regarding wicked shepherds. Matthew 23:25 reads, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are filled with plunder and unrighteousness." We've seen them. Those who dress apart, those who fill with vanity, even those who break the commandments by putting a lion's head or a menorah or Yahuwah's name on their garments and wearing phylacteries versus just sewing and hemming their garments with a purple cord. We've seen the misleading, causing and feeding confusion. There's a warning to them. Matthew 23:27 say, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly indeed look well, but inside are filled with dead men's bones and all uncleanlinesses." You see, there are warnings to these adults that contribute to innocent deaths. Adult decisions. Let's be careful in the decisions that we make, my brothers and sisters. Let us be mindful of those decisions. Let me make a correction here, my brothers and sisters. Bear with me as I make an adjustment. You know, my brothers and sisters, there's so much to learn. Corrections are coming. The corrections that are necessary to bring Yashar'al together. Warning to shepherds are made known to each of us to watch out for one another, to avoid such wicked leaders, my brothers and sisters, to come away from them. And the Almighty Father may at times bring us to the point where we present corrections and we will discover, my brothers and sisters, there are those that will yield and those who will not. Even though shepherds will be held accountable, we must never forget these words, O Yashar'al. Hear these words in Philippians chapter 2, verse 12 through 16. Philippians 2:12-16 reads, "So that my beloved, as you always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now much rather in my absence, work out your own deliverance with fear and trembling." That fear and trembling that he's talking about is the same fear that Yahuwah inspired his prophet to write in Proverbs when it talks about the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom and discipline. It's the fear that causes us to pause and seek to discern his voice as we move about among one another. It says, "For it is the Almighty One who is working in you both to desire and to work for his good pleasure." You see, so we work out our own salvation, our own deliverance. And if we do so as the Almighty Father is working in us, notice it said in the 13th verse, the Almighty One who is working in you. If we do so, my brothers and sisters, we're doing a good thing. And sometimes the adults that's making decisions that will harm the innocent, we must walk away from. We must avoid. It says, "Do all matters without grumbling and disputings." So if we disagree, we mention the disagree, but don't try to grumble, fight, and argue and convince an adult that the decision is wrong when it's wrong. Just mention that you believe it's wrong. You don't have to grumble or dispute and walk away. Press on into set apartness. Press on into the ways in which the Almighty Father is working in you, in us, one towards another. It says, "In that you be blameless and faultless, children of the Almighty One, without blemish in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world, holding on to the word of life, For a boast to me in the day of Messiah, that I have not run in vain or labored in vain. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, there's much to be said to be careful in the decisions that we make, how they will and do affect the innocent. Believe it or not, assemblies are held accountable as well. Visit Revelations chapter 2 and 3, and you will see where 7 assemblies were rebuffed, doing things that they felt was right and holding their heads up, but neglecting things, missing out on things in part. I won't take the time to read it, but I want you to read about the 7 assemblies in the 2nd and 3rd chapter of Revelation, my brothers and sisters. Let me continue. End times will prove the need to be mindful of the sides we take and how it will affect others. In other words, when we make that decision to take this side, who else is following our lead? Who else are we influencing? And if we are wrong, are we not contributing to the death of the innocent? Could we not be the cause of innocent deaths? So let us be careful of the decisions we make. Let us understand the responsibilities we have as adults. O Yashar'al. Remember what I presented earlier in Matthew 24 chapter. And I want you to remember it as it regards to why we must be careful in the decisions we make. Here, the 24th chapter, verses 4 through 13, is talking about all that will come to be, as stated by the Mashiach, Yahusha. He says, Yahusha answered, said to them, take heed that no one leads you astray. So let's be careful of those decisions so we're not leading anyone astray. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they shall lead many astray. We need to have an eye. We need to have ears. We need to be able to discern who those are and come away from them. It's saying you shall begin to hear of fighting and reports of fighting. See that you are not troubled, for these have to take place, but the end is not yet. Are they fighting, trying to convince you that their decisions are right? Is it fighting? Is the fighting that's occurring is diverse in many ways, many types of fighting? We must learn how to walk away from fighting and press into what the Almighty Father is telling us to do. For nation shall rise against nation and reign against reign, and there shall be scarcities of food and deadly diseases and earthquakes in places. And all these are the beginning of birth pains. You see, Yashar'al, it's going to be important for us to know that we're making wise decisions. Will we direct someone to an area where there are scarcities of food? Will we lead our family or someone or a group to where there are deadly disease and earthquakes? Are we choosing wisely as the Almighty Father is directing our footsteps? Some will be in the midst of destruction due to making the wrong decisions. And some will be in the midst of destructions to be the last word spoken among people in that area, letting them know this is all part of the plan of the Almighty Father. They will not try to gain their lives, but they will lose their lives for Yahusha's sake. It says, then many shall stumble, they shall deliver up one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. And because of the increase of lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. But he who have endured to the end shall be saved. People take this verse to say you're not saved until the end. This end, endured to the end, is to the end till they take their last breath. Then they will recognize the confirmation as to whether they was saved or not. You see, saved is that transformation, that new birth that we receive from the Almighty Father Yahuah through his word sent in Yahusha's name, by receiving Yahusha as our Mashiach, as our Savior. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al. Does that give you reason why we need to be careful with the decisions that are being made? Take heed to adult decisions. Be careful not to be among those who cause innocent death. More regarding why. Matthew 10, 34 to 39. I read it before. I'm going to read it again. Do not think that I've come to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace but a sword. For I have come to bring division, a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And man's enemies are those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take up his stake and follow after me is not worthy of me. And he who has found his life shall lose it. And he that has lost his life for my sake shall find it. The reason why we need to be careful of the decisions we make as adults. Yashar'al, beware of those who sling scriptures at you to get you to follow them and say, well, that's what the word says. I have said this and have begun saying this on many occasions. The Bible, the most widely circulated book, which is called the Scriptures by those who have awakened and those who have come away from that title. A book of books. The original Scriptures did not have chapters and verses numbered like we see it. The original Scriptures did not have the word Jesus and Lord in it. My brothers and sisters, it is wrong and wicked for people to tell you they follow the Bible and nothing else. The scriptures tell us that the letter kills and the spirit makes alive. They should say the original inspired scriptures I desire to follow. And I know man have tampered with him and injected Jesus and Lord and other things into the scriptures. So it is important to pray and let the Spirit make alive the intent of what the Almighty Father wants us to learn, know, and grow in, Yashar'al. When I say the scripture's been tampered with, there are those that want to take arms and support the text. I heard one say they believe I believe in their text, they say the Bible is the word of God. If there are mistakes and flaws in the translations that we have, do you think that the Almighty Father is going to contradict himself? That's the result of man. So the scriptures or the Bible that we see are pointers, but it's important for us to recognize it's pointing us to the living Spirit of the Almighty Father who sent his Spirit in Yahusha's name to comfort us and teach us, as written in John 14:26. So Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, though we lean on the scriptures or the Bible, let us be mindful of the corrections that the Almighty Father brings to us as a result of correcting what man has done in their tampering. I heard a brother say, I guard Shabbat evening to evening. I do what Yah says. It's right there in the Bible. The word of Yah. But if you go to the so-called New Testament and you see Jesus, that's not the word of Yahuwah. It should be, I discern what the Spirit have to say. There's so much confusion. My brothers and sisters, as I gradually come to a close, I do want to take a moment to say this. Well, I'll wait towards the end. Stick with me, my brothers and sisters. The subject matter, adult decisions, and innocent death. Remember, the letter kills, but the Spirit is the Spirit that makes alive. Here's the scripture that I am referencing. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 4 through 6 says this, and such trust we have towards the Almighty One through the Messiah. Not that we are competent in ourselves to reckon any matter as from ourselves, but our competence is from the Almighty One, who also made us competent as servants of a renewed covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, and the Spirit gives life. The letter kills, and the Spirit gives life. You see, my brothers and sisters, one of the things that is occurring is our comprehension, our literacy skill, our reading and understanding ability have been shaped by whatever school or by the home, community, clubs, by so many outside factors have influenced different things in our lives that this is why you can have a person read something and get 6 other people to read and 7 different readers of the same passage, and they all get something different. Now, some might get something that connects, that demonstrate what endless water is about, which is about connectivity as we relate to the word of Yahuwah. But many will get different meanings of what they read because of the way they've been trained to interpret words and sentences. Yashar'al, this is why we are to pray and discern what the Almighty Father is saying regarding the matter. Remember, my brothers and sisters, remember and choose wisely whom we assemble with, for there are no rewinds. These passages are widely used to manipulate people into submission when it comes to assembling or going to council. Hear these words in Hebrews 10th chapter, verse 24 through 25. Hebrews 10th chapter, verses 24 through 25 said, "And let us be concerned for one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging, and so much more as you see the day coming near." Assembling, fellowshipping, coming together is important, O Yashar'al. But we must know that there are scriptures that say pray without ceasing. We must know that there are scriptures that say walk filled with the Spirit. We must know that there are times to be alone. Even Shalum went to Arabia to pray and seek the face of the Spirit of Yahusha before joining the other taught ones. You see, O Yashar'al, they will just show you this verse and say, see, that's what the word says, that's what the word says, but they don't describe the criteria, the need to discern. They don't look in Philippians when it talks about examine all things to see whether they're different. They don't look in the scripture that says where a house is divided against itself, it cannot stand. They want you to look at just getting in fellowship, getting with their camp, community, or group, or fellowship. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, we are to assemble, and we will assemble in unity. We will witness that the discipline that the Almighty Father speaks of in Hebrews 12th chapter, the discipline that is mentioned in Revelation 3:19, it will bring together a set apart assembly like we never imagined. Consider Proverbs 11:14. It says, without guidance the people fall, but in a great counselor there is safety. A great counselor, my brothers and sisters, I want you to know this without a doubt. A great counselor is the Almighty Father, and he dwells in us. And so when he speaks through us one towards another, if we go to a multitude of counselors that are being used by the Almighty Father, that's where the safety is. It's not just going to people because they say, I went to the elders or the deacons or the priests. They had it. Especially if they're egotistical, especially if they demonstrate wickedness in their erroneous teachings and behaviors. The great counselors are those who yield and prove and demonstrate that they follow the ways of Yahuwah. My brothers and sisters, be advised, in the midst of all end times uncertainty and confusion, it is possible to identify the set apart ones who can discern what must be done. There's a lot of work, my brothers and sisters. There's a lot of work ahead of us. each day that we receive breath, how many of us ask what is expected of us? How many of us think on the presence of the Almighty Father with us? How many of us seek to discern what is he saying to us? Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al. Are we making adult decisions? Are these decisions causing innocent death in more ways than we can imagine? I say this to you, O Yashar'al, as adults, as leaders, as pastors, preachers, deacons, as those that are called to different offices, as those that are called to speak out on behalf of the Almighty Father as a result of him working in us and through us one towards another. Let us exercise caution. Let us know when to pause. Let us seek earnestly to discern when he is speaking through us and to us one towards another. On that note, Yashar'al, if you received anything that is of life and of truth, subscribe to this channel, share and like. And I said I was going to mention something towards the end. I want to say this, Yashar'al. On the matter of Shabbat, I believe a day begins from morning to morning, unequivocally. But I am compelled to believe that true Shabbat is not the day we know as Saturday. True Shabbat is every 7 days, beginning with the beginning of the first month of the first year. And I believe, my brothers and sisters, every 7 days is counted by the routine of daylight. And I believe we must, and we will grow to realize that the Enoch calendar, which says 364 days in a year, is the correct calendar we should be paying attention to. I believe, O Yashar'al, that 4 times a year, as the solstice, the seasons are divided in a way in which 4 times a year there will be 31 days in a month. And if you take that and look at it and examine it, you will see. So what does this do? I say forgive me, my brothers and sisters, because I had mentioned Saturday. I even tried to rationalize how until we get into our land, we can't guard Shabbat. But there's no scripture that excuses such rationale. I will do a post dedicated to Shabbat correction in the coming days ahead. But I wanted to repent of that and say this. I believe that the new moon and full moon marks the beginning of a month. And I know this opened up a whole nother subject matter. But Shabbat, true Shabbat, is counted from the first full moon that marks the beginning of a new year. 7 days from that is Shabbat. And that the routine for a day is morning to morning. I know this opens up a whole challenge. For then we must go back and look at when the year began. It definitely didn't begin in the month known as January. We must look at when it began. It appears if you go by the full moon that it was April 6th, I believe. I say I believe, and that's why I say it appears. But Yashar'al, I will dedicate a message solely on Shabbat. Shabbat is a correction that's coming, my brothers and sisters. It is a message that's coming because in these end times, timing will be critical in the coming together of 144,000 in great multitude. Timing will be a critical factor. But I end this message, adult decisions and innocent death, Do not be distracted because I brought up Shabbat at the end and I ask your forgiveness on this matter. But you choose, O Yashar'al. Pray, for corrections are coming. There are things that must happen. I realize my struggle and even this confession makes it known that the seventh day could be any quote-unquote day of the week, the way the Gregorian calendar falls, and that poses a dilemma for us coming together in unity. But that's no excuse for saying, well, we're going to do something wicked because man is tempered. But I want to say this, look forward to what the Almighty Father will do regarding Shabbat and the coming together of the 144,000 in great multitude. Look forward to us being able to guard and honor it correctly. As it stands now, I believe the routine of work is morning to morning. There's much more to come. Again, coming back to adult decisions and innocent death. Let us choose wisely, my brothers and sisters. Thank you for your patience, your tolerance, your pursuit of set apartness, your zeal and desire to do the will of the Almighty Father. I thank you. And if anything coming from me that is true, I pray that the Almighty Father get all esteem and credit. I pray that out of obedience, even the obedience that brings me to confess my faults and say, forgive me, to get under the blood of the Lamb and rise up anew in the spirit of newness, in the spirit of set apartness. I pray that you too can understand the dynamics of what's necessary in the days ahead, for great corrections are coming. Let us learn to yield to those, lest we find ourselves contributor to innocent death. On that note, stay tuned. There's more to come, my brothers and sisters. And I end by saying Shalom. Shalom, my brother, my sister, my family. Shalom. Shalom.